Love it. Yeah, who did the music for this movie?
John Williams.
John Williams. Okay. I was gonna say it's like always him, but
well, like the thing also too is if you listen to it's called Marian's theme in this movie. It's like whenever there's like a slow love part between Indiana Jones and Marian, and it sounds exactly like Leia's theme from Star Wars. So like I think John Williams is pulling like the longest con.
Yeah.
He's just reusing his material.
Yeah, they're like, John, we need you to whip up something. And he's like, okay. And then he just like goes to his archives and he's like, I think I could change a few notes. He's just fascinated.
Because I saw recently the Star Wars music live performance by the National Symphony Orchestra. So I knew the flute.
Is it one where they like show the movie and then the orchestra?
This one wasn't. It was the most complete version of John Williams' Star Wars music. So like the Rise of Skywalker isn't actually like published and out yet. So that was on loan from John Williams because he wanted to make the DC opening night special.
Aw, he was like, this one's for you guys, just like Taylor Swift.
Right.
Was he there? Did he come out into the audience?
No. I mean, any old man could have been John Williams and I would have fallen for it. They did tell us that I think it might have been the second one or the third movie like of the original series was recorded by the symphony orchestra in DC. So they were like, we have the original snare drum and like this is like the first time in a while that we've performed it right here where it was born.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And then like I didn't even realize that they didn't do the Cantina band song. And then they did it as an encore and he was conducting with a lightsaber and it was just
Aww.
But anyway, so I know that flute and I know that John Williams is reusing.
You caught him. You caught him in a lie. You said you're like actually self-plagiarizing here, but I'm going to one, not for the Star Wars, but for the Lord of the Rings, where they have the film projecting and then they have the live orchestra playing. I'm going to that with my mom in a couple weeks. We just found out about it and booked tickets. So that's super exciting because I haven't been to any sort of, because I feel like they've become more popular in the last couple of years, these like playthroughs with the movie on the screen. I've seen them for like Harry Potter, Star Wars, Lord of the Rings. Those are the main ones that I've seen, but they've become more popular and I've always wanted to go to one. So
they should do it for The Room.
Yeah. they just start doing
the same song over and over.
I like it. They just start branching out a little bit and do it for like early 2000s where they're actually just playing like pop songs. The Lizzie McGuire movie. The
Room is like a fun thing to see, but we haven't gotten it on like Rocky Horror Picture Show level where it's like people are reenacting the sex scenes right in front of you. So I just feel like there's more that we could do.
That's true. It is like an interactive and it does have like a large fan following. But with Rocky Horror, they have that shit down. Do you remember that? Like people got up and like it wasn't like planned. It was just people in the audience that were like ready to go. So yeah, you're right. The Room needs to step it up a little bit. We do need like actual performances on stage to accompany it. But
hello and welcome back to Remake Hot Take, the podcast where we play studio executives pitching new ideas and remake ideas of our favorite and new media. I'm Marriya Schwarz.
And I'm Brooke Rees. And this week we are doing the OG Indiana Jones and the Raiders of the Lost Ark,
which I wanted to do since Indiana Jones and the Dial of Destiny came out last month. Have you seen it?
No.
Okay, cool. Me either. I assume it's about dial soap, but I'm not completely sure on that. But I did look it up and Shia LaBeouf is not in this one, but his character was killed off, which I think we should do that for every Shia LaBeouf character because he's such a toxic person. Like I think the producers of Even Steven should issue out a statement that like
He died.
Lewis has died in a mole fire.
Oh my gosh. First of all, we wanted to watch this, like Marriya said, because the new movie just came out, but also because I haven't seen any Indiana Jones movies. Coincidentally, I have seen this movie, the first movie, before. And so it was a rewatch for me again. I can't remember when I watched it for the first time, but I don't know. I may be unpopular here in the comments because maybe they get better with as the franchise it has expanded, but this one isn't my fave, and we can get into that in a little bit. But yeah, we wanted to watch it because I hadn't seen any of them, but I did see on Twitter people talking about Shia LaBeouf getting killed off because apparently he was in like the last couple of them.
He was in the last one, the Crystal
Oh,
Skull.
okay. Just the last one he was in, and I guess it kind of like set him up to be like the one that like will carry on the rest of the film franchises, and he was kind of supposed to be the main character. And then everyone on Twitter was like, yeah. And then this one opens and it's like, oh yeah, he died. Like,
in the Vietnam War.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
That's the other thing. I didn't realize that this was like set back in time. So I was like, even in like the opening shots and stuff, people in like the 1930s, that's kind of how people dress today in like whatever freaking way they want. They're just kind of borrowing from any decade. So I didn't know anything was like awry. I was like, oh, this is like the 80s or whatever when this was filmed. And then they were like, yeah, and so the Nazis want this.
Well, we have Nazis now too. So.
I know, and I still was like, oh, okay. I was like, it's the fascists, it's the incels. And then they were like, and Hitler wants it for his personal collection. And I was like, what's going on here? Is there another Hitler? And then I had to text Marriya and I was like, what's going on? Why are there Nazis? Why is Hitler here? And she was like, it's set in the 30s. And I was like, that makes so much more sense than Hitler being resurrected for an 80s film. And then the fashion made more sense too. He was in like a 3-piece like suit thing for his professor gig. And I don't know about you, but my professor showed up in like Birkenstocks and t-shirts on a pretty day-to-day basis in college. So I was like, the formality makes more sense. But yeah, Shia gets killed off. People thought that was very funny. But yeah, what about you, Marriya? Have you seen all of the other ones leading up to this latest one? Okay.
Yeah, so I hadn't seen them prior to like 2008. That was when Indiana Jones and the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull came out. And so my dad wanted to see it in theaters with my sister and I, so he showed me all of them. And I wouldn't say this is kind of known as the favorite. The Raiders of the Lost Ark is kind of known as the favorite. Yeah, I wouldn't say it's my favorite. I would say Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade is my favorite.
Okay.
That one has, I feel like it's more like action treasure based. There's like a dad storyline, so it's like a lot more like National Treasure. I also think the Holy Grail is like a better treasure than the Ark, because I don't know what the Ark is. Like I don't think it was Noah's. Like I didn't see a zebra pop out of there. But like I haven't read the Bible, so I'm not really religious, but I have seen like Monty Python, so I know what the Holy Grail is. So that one's I feel like better for me. But I would say that these movies are kind of like the American treasure version of like James Bond. Like,
I haven't seen the James Bond movies either. maybe that's why it wasn't resonating with me as much. Maybe I have to start getting into both. Yeah, I haven't seen anything James Bond at all.
Cool. But yeah,
I haven't seen any Mission Impossibles either. I'm really losing out here on the like action franchises.
But The Last Crusade even has Sean Connery as Indiana Jones's father, so very James Bond oriented. Like there's like a Bond girl essentially in every movie, of like either an ally or like a femme fatale kind of character. I did not like the Kingdom of the Crystal Skull. It really freaked me out in theaters because there's like an alien plot line that like doesn't make any sense and it's scary. That one's not my favorite. That one's known as like the worst one. Dial of Destiny is actually doing pretty good. People are saying that that's like the third best out of 5. So
are they ending with Dial of Destiny?
I mean, we thought we ended with the Crystal Skull, so who knows?
They're just gonna keep doing it until Harrison Ford can no longer do it. Which, Another part of this is that I have said publicly before that I don't like Harrison Ford's vibes, which is kind of like that was kind of his shtick. He was like kind of like a grumpy guy for a long time, but like I don't like grumpy men. And he seemed just like
fuck the
mean.
dwarf.
No, he just seemed like mean to me. And like if I was like in a room with him, he could like make me cry very easily. It was the vibes that he was giving off. But also I've seen people talk about like in all of the promo for this latest film, it's just Harrison Ford like crying a lot. Like it's just him like
it's range. It's called range, Brooke.
It's yeah, I guess so. Well, I was going to talk about that too. Like if we think that he's a really great actor, because I don't know. I haven't seen him in that many things, I don't think. But
I mean, isn't he just playing treasure hunting Han Solo
yeah,
here?
he's just like always playing like kind of what seems to be his like own persona of like I'm a man and I'm kind of grumpy and I like women and treasure.
I really liked his performance in Witness. I don't know if you've seen
I haven't
Witness.
seen it.
That's one of
No.
my favorites.
I think maybe I haven't seen his range. I've only
He was good
seen
in
him.
Extraordinary Measures too. That one has Brendan Fraser.
I've seen him in Blade Runner 2049.
You don't like Blade Runner?
Blade Runner the original, and I hate both of those two. Like viscerally hate it. It's not even about him being like the main character. It's just like the premise of Blade Runner I really hate. So I've really only seen him in Blade Runner, Indiana Jones, and then Star Wars. And I feel like in Star Wars and in Indiana Jones, he's the same guy. Which
And
is
in
why
Star Wars, you didn't really know who was who at first, so
I didn't. No, but I knew Harrison Ford was in Star Wars, so I was like, what's this guy? But anyways, I personally have like a bit of a vendetta against Harrison Ford, but now I don't know if I can even have that vendetta anymore because with his promo for this movie, he seemed like before to be someone who was like above his fame status and like didn't want to engage in like Hollywood or fans and kind of seemed like he was above it all. But now in his latest promos, he's like sobbing every time he talks, and he's like, "I need to leave my legacy of."
Oh, I haven't seen those. I've seen the one where he's like, "I just want to go to bed."
No, all the ones that I've been like shown to me on my feed have all been him being like, "This is my favorite character that I've played, and you guys have let me be your Indiana Jones for like 50 years now, or 40 years or whatever." And I love this character and I love portraying it and I want to leave my legacy in Hollywood. Like he like goes on and on. He's like tearful. So now I'm like, oh, maybe he's getting soft in his old age, like in a good way. I'm like, maybe I can start to like him a little bit. The edge seems to be taken off a little. So I don't know. I don't know where I stand with Harrison Ford. He kind of just seems like old and happier now, which I like better than young, spry, and grumpy. So maybe I'll change my opinion on him, but having only seen him in Star Wars and Indiana Jones, I don't know. I feel like his acting performance is lacking a little bit. Like I don't quite see the range there, but I also have not seen the majority of his filmography. So that could be on me. What were your overall impressions of this movie?
It's a lot less like action packed than I thought. Like it was like we get like halfway through before we actually like dig anywhere. Like it doesn't feel as much like a treasure movie as I thought. Like National Treasure, we kind of get like right into it. At least like they steal things and that's interesting. Here it's like a lot of like talking about like what we're gonna do. So it was like the beginning was just like a lot of noises and I wasn't really sure what was happening. I learned a lot about how whips are more resourceful than I thought. So that was good. I don't know. What did you think about the overall?
Yeah. So my overall, again, it's okay if people get mad at me, but it took me so long to watch this movie. I've been, as we know from the last pod, still recovering from my appendectomy, haven't been like too out and about really. Even still, with like almost nothing to do but sit on a couch in the evenings, it took me like 3 days to finish this movie because I kept having to stop. I was like, I can't get into it. And I just had to stop after like 30 minutes one night because I had to go to bed. And then I got like an hour and 20 minutes into it. It's like just under 2 hours. So I got like an hour into it and had to stop again. And for me, that also, this could be on me. I just had like honestly kind of like a hard time following what we were doing and what was like the goal here.
It was just a lot of shooting and not sure who was doing what.
There were like a lot of conflicting interests, I feel. And I feel like Indiana Jones as a character, his motivations were kind of all over the place for me. And like
he's a history himbo. It's always history above everything else.
I guess so, but like I don't know. There were a couple of like specific plot points that I was like, I don't get why that just happened. Like in particular, my main gripe was he just seems like stupid at times, and I don't know if they develop him more in the later movies, but like he, comes up with a plan to get back onto like the German ship and then save Marion again, because she keeps getting captured and he keeps trying to save her. And so his plan is to like put on a German Nazi uniform. He has like the bazooka thing. And he's like on top of the cliff and they're down there. And he's like, stop, I'm going to shoot the Ark. And the guy calls his bluff in like 30 seconds. He's like, I actually know that you're not going to shoot the Ark because you like the Ark above everything. And then Indiana's like, yeah.
He's a history himbo.
He's like, that's right. He's like, oh, I guess you can have my girlfriend. I don't know. Like, I was like, why was that his game plan? Like, he wasn't being chased. He had time to make this plan. And that's what he came up with. I think also my bias, not only against Harrison Ford, but like you mentioned, National Treasure Nick Cage before this, which is far less critically acclaimed and is very much more like campy vibes. But Nicolas Cage is a charismatic man. And I would follow him into a dangerous treasure situation far more quickly than I would follow Indy based on what I'm seeing with his like
I would say The Mummy too. The Mummy is the best treasure movie, I would say.
Yeah. Well, yeah, what's Brendan Fraser's character's name in that?
Rick O'Connell.
Okay, Rick O'Connell. He's also charismatic. Rick honestly has like Rick has like the physical prowess of Indiana Jones, and it seems like the maybe not the intelligence of Nick Cage in National Treasure, but he also is very charismatic, and I don't know, there's just like something lacking in this movie. It is also, an older movie too, but
and Evie I feel like does something. I hate the whole like shtick of like Marion, she's a tomboy, but she keeps on being put in these white dresses and having to fight in these white dresses, but she can't really do anything, and she's the damsel in distress. I feel like I was fine with maybe it happening once, but I was like, girl, why is everyone putting you in a dress?
I know. I mean, it was a nice dress. It was a good dress. And I mean, Indy says it himself. He's like, and where'd you get this? And he's kind of like jealous. I got this on ModCloth. Yeah, Indy's like kind of like jealous when he sees her in that dress.
And he wanted to wear the dress.
He's like, can I have a turn after you? No, but he's like, oh, did you get that from him? And it's like, yeah, she was trying to like avoid being raped and murdered. Like she wasn't like, oh, I mean, she was flirting with him, but like for the purpose of not being raped and murdered.
Okay, but he's a history himbo. The only way to communicate with him is through history. Like foreplay for him is like, we the people, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility. Like that's what does it for him.
Yeah, I guess, but like, but it also doesn't, because he was willing to like abandon the Ark at like several junctures here, and also he like destroys the entire Egyptian. Like,
well, that's Nick Cage destroying everything.
Yeah, but like so does Indy. He goes in there and he's like, "Oh, we're trapped in here as snakes. I'm gonna take this like ancient relic of these like mummies, and I'm gonna like desecrate their tombs and break through this wall." So I don't know, like, if that's what they want to play into is the history himbo, they're still not making him like charismatic enough for me to forget like all of his other flaws that I see here in the first movie. But yeah, I don't know. It was just difficult for me to get into, and I did watch it pretty fragmented. I kept having to like start and stop here. But and then like, why did the monkey was the monkey like working for the bad guys?
The
like,
monkey was a Nazi, yes.
but then he was killed, right?
Because the monkey was dumb.
So they killed him? Like,
well, because the monkey didn't know that the dates were poisoned. Monkey knew that there was food.
That's so sad.
Hitler did not tell him otherwise.
Little Nazi monkey. Because I was like, why is he giving her away? And then he was just a little monkey, though. He didn't know better.
A monkey with dangerous ideals.
I guess. He was just a little baby. And then he became a Nazi. And then he got killed. But like, Monkey was like one of my favorite characters. I was only relating to his adorableness, but he did give Marion away. I mean, what else? Like, why would they employ a monkey? Like, what other purpose did he serve except for like the one scene where he's like, rah, 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 rah. Like, she's in here.
Wait, I'm sorry, what did he do?
He was like, rah, 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 rah.
Thank you.
That's the exact noise I think he made. I mean, again, I watched this fragmented. Does it explain how her basket was switched? Like,
no, it just happened.
So that's like another one where I'm like, if this were National Treasure, we would have seen the exact, because it's such a big like, oh, aha moment. And like Indy like realizes, I do like the nickname Indy for Indiana. I will say, I do like calling him Indy. That's adorable. But I like Indy like has this big moment of realization. And he's like, he does love Marion, and like, this is it for him, and he loves her, and she's alive, and oh my God. And like, her being alive is just like, oh yeah, there she is. Like, they literally are just like, they must have switched baskets. And that they leave it at that. It's like, it's such a like an important thing. And I feel like in other action movies, we would have had like a flashback to like,
did you want it to be longer?
Yes, because they weren't explaining some of these things. Like, that's a huge plot moment, and they could have taken that as an opportunity. I'm just saying that in other action movies, that would have had a lot of potential to be like a funny cutaway scene, because like this movie is funny. It also is like an action comedy. It has these comedic elements, and it would have been like a really funny opportunity to like cut back to a flashback scene, and it's like Indy got in that whole chase and fight with like just completely the wrong car. Like, she was never in that car at all. And you could see like the basket just like sitting there, and like they never actually picked her up or something. But instead, it's literally like they wanted her to come back in because they needed her to fulfill these roles of like damsel in distress. And I just don't like this structure of how this movie is set up. I had seen it before, like I said, and I was pretty sure that this is the one I had seen before. I almost like didn't remember any of it, but I was like, I'm pretty sure that people start getting like blasted by like some sort of blasting like arc thing. I was like, wait, maybe this isn't the movie that I saw, because I was like, there are only 20 minutes left. Maybe this isn't what I saw. And so we have these like conflict and then resolution and then conflict, and then we're on the boat finally. And then they take like 15 more minutes to be like, actually, the Nazis are going to win. And actually, Indy's going to be like really fucking stupid here. And we're going to show that he actually does put the arc above Marion. And then everyone's actually going to die. Like, it was very like a convenient ending with like no real consequences in that sense. And then we also have the like John Rhys Davis, Gimli, his character is just like also there, and we didn't really he like the way that Indy is like, I'm gonna go get the Ark. You guys make your way back to Cairo, like as if it was an option for them this whole time, even though they're being held like prisoner by this camp, and they're like 300 miles away from Cairo or any like civilization or something. And he's like, actually, can you guys get an Uber? Like, I have to go. Like, I'll meet you there. So it just feels like there were all of these like loose ends and opportunities that they didn't take. And it feels like they knew how they wanted to end with like the Nazis getting blasted by this mythical arc direct connection to God or whatever. And then they couldn't quite figure out how they wanted to get there. So they just had like this cutaway scene, and then they were like running out of time that they had budgeted. So then they have the last like 15 minutes. So there were just a couple of things like that, but particularly like when he has the bazooka and makes that weird character decision to come up with this plan with absolutely no follow through. And then again, when they reveal Marion is alive, and he's just like, there must have been different baskets. I don't know. So
I think Indiana Jones evolved over time. Spielberg actually like didn't want it to be a comedy. That was like Harrison Ford putting in comedy in it. Like I think the best part is where there's that guy like doing tricks with like a sword or whatever, and then Indiana Jones just shoots him. That wasn't scripted originally. So like Spielberg had decided that they were going to do like this whole battle with a whip, but basically the entire cast, including Harrison Ford, had dysentery at the time and they didn't want to film anymore. So it was Harrison Ford who came up with like just to like shoot him. And I think that's the best moment of the series and the most like iconic moment. And so I think Spielberg was like struggling to find his footing in this first one. So I think it does get better.
Yeah, I wrote that down as the funniest moment.
I like the moment where like they're getting that gold idol and Indy switches over like the bag of sand or whatever, because I just like the idea of a plot line where it's like those competitions where it's like how many jelly beans are in a bottle, and I feel like he would be really good at that. How many jelly beans are in this jar, and he just nails it.
But wasn't the like plot of that like he didn't nail that? Because
I mean, he's working on it.
Okay, so he's like close. In this first movie, he's starting out in like third place for the Jelly Belly counting competition. But yeah, I love how like he's using these like poor local like
I know
people, I don't know, hired for like a day. And then I mean the one guy does betray him, but like they all die and they're like, I don't want to go in there.
That's what the evil people do in The Mummy, is like they hire the local people and then kill them. So it's literally
what the Americans do is what we're saying in The Mummy. But I thought it was funny that like in that opening scene they're like going through this jungle and they come upon like this statue, and the one guy like screams in terror and like runs away. And I'm like, was this some like local, like well-known thing that like this would kill you? Or did he just like see a statue in the jungle, this like random character, and just get like really wigged out by it? Because I was like,
maybe
there was nothing scary there yet.
Yeah, I don't love the whole like plot line of stealing holy artifacts from native local people. I don't know. I don't love that. I don't love that in general. I don't love that of archaeology.
It's very British of them. A British mindset with American gunpowder is not a good thing. That's like a whole separate issue as well.
I also don't trust that Indiana Jones doesn't believe in ghosts. I think that's a major red flag.
That like knocks him down a few pegs in your mind.
That's the biggest dumb thing he does.
He does several dumb things. I just don't understand.
And then the when he's teaching in class and the girl has like "love you" on her eyelids, I didn't love that.
I didn't even see that.
Yeah. So he's teaching and there's a student who's like slowly blinking because she's written "love you" in eyeliner on her eyelids. And I don't know, I think it's supposed to be like a funny thing. Like he's the hot professor, but I don't encourage harassment at work, you know? Like I think that's the biggest thing about like being on dating apps and being a professor is like you have to like put your career or whatever on dating apps. I mean, you don't have to, but it like verifies your account. All the people are like, I wish that you were my college professor. Like maybe I would have focused. And it's like, I don't support harassment at work. Also, I think when you're like a professor, or I think I felt this way in general, like student-teacher relationships are disgusting. Like these are babies. I just don't understand. I don't know. I also thought the way that they portray academia, like when did he have time to go look for this golden idol? Spring break? I don't know. I don't understand.
Well, that was going to be like one of my main remake propositions, is that I think that he's a professor that takes all semester to grade like one paper.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like if I'm in his class, I'm like, hey, like Mr. Dr. Jones, Professor Jones, like I'm getting like really worried because it's almost the end of the semester and we've only had like a couple papers and you haven't graded them yet. And like I don't know if I'm passing or failing. Like,
and so then you put on your eyelids, grade me.
yeah, I'm like, please update the Blackboard. Like, I don't know what's going on. But yeah, I think that just from what I'm seeing, he's going off on this little adventure mandated by the secret US government mission here, but he could have brought along, I'm just saying, a couple of papers. Like, did he have a
He brought along the TA.
That's what he should have done. He was like, come on, Jonathan, like let's go.
Rate my professor. He's really knowledgeable, but sometimes he leaves for several months.
Yeah, like he's a good guy, but like we don't see much of him. There's substitute professors in here a lot. We get a couple like radio calls.
Whenever I fall asleep in class, he hits me with a whip.
Oh no. It's like he does believe in corporal punishment. Which is a little weird since we're in college. But yeah, that was another tip off that we were not in this century, was that like one of the students puts an apple on his desk when they're walking out, as like the secret, I don't know, CIA is like, we need you to stop the Nazis. And this kid just like puts like an apple on his desk. And I like to think that kid was like, yeah, this is gonna do it for me.
I've only gotten gummy bears.
This is gonna make my B turn into an A. And then his professor just disappears. And then I think secretly he's like, oh my God, did I like overstep a line with handing him an apple? Which one time, I have a funny story. I was taking a test, this is in high school, with this teacher for social studies, and it was like a long test and all of us were like running late to our next period, so she had like called our math teacher and like let him know that people were just finishing up and we would be there like in a couple minutes. So he was like, okay, like thanks for letting me know. And then he was like, okay, you guys have all like got in there. And he was like, you like, she's such a good teacher for like calling and letting me know that you guys were gonna be late. And he was like a farmer too. So he was like, here's an apple that I like picked from my farm today. He was like, Bob, go and like put this on Mrs. Stropko's desk. And Bob was like, okay. And so Bob was like, here's an apple from like this other teacher. Like he says, thanks for calling to let us know. And she was like, are you serious? And the kid was like, yeah. And she was like, you're joking, right? And they were like, no. And then she calls him, she's deathly allergic to apples. What are the chances?
Wrong profession.
I know. So she calls this other teacher and she was like, is this?
She should have been a doctor.
Yeah. She would take that literally. But she was like, is this a threat? And he was like, what are you talking about? And she was like, I'm so allergic to apples. Like, she can't even touch like the skin of it or something.
Why would that kid know?
The kid didn't know, but then she was calling the other teacher and the other teacher was like, what? He was like, I never even like heard of that. Like, I'm so sorry. I was just trying to give, like, oh, give a teacher an apple for things. There had to be like some PR smoothing done. It was a situation, but it was funny.
I thought that the eating scene with the dress felt very much like Pirates of the Caribbean with Marion and being held captive. I thought that was very, I don't know if that's what they based Pirates of the Caribbean on, but I felt like there were a lot of remnants of that. I was also confused why they made her change. Like, what was wrong with her clothes? Was it just to sexualize her? I don't appreciate sexualizing women. She just wants to play beer pong and stuff and just have a good time. So
she wants to run her bar in Nepal. Was she his TA? Wasn't she?
Or I don't know. She was like, I was a child when I fell in love with you. And I was like, uh-oh, is he a groomer?
You're like, do you mean that metaphorically? Or like,
and then he abandons her. And I was like, that's so not baby girl.
Yeah, so I got like the vibes that maybe she was like his assistant or a student or something that.
I mean, he definitely knew her father. I would say that the fighting and sound effects were very bad, but I can see like where this had promise to like create a whole series off of, and I think it does get better. I also said that she was a shitty nurse. Like, she's supposed to be helping heal Indiana Jones, and then she's just like, where doesn't it hurt? And that's where she kisses, but that's not effective in the
I
healing
know.
process. You target what hurts. So I think she should stick to alcohol.
I thought the same thing too, because they're like, oh, kiss your like boo boo and it'll make it feel better. And she's like, I'm actually just gonna kiss like the parts of you that aren't.
Yeah,
like
I was like, what the heck is that?
lacerating.
I wrote the maybe the true arc was the love we found along the way. When the part when they're like Nazis are against a Jewish ritual for the ark, I just went so Nazi.
That's
That
so
was a
not.
very Nazi moment. The CGI ghosts were awful. It felt like the Haunted Mansion ride. But I thought it was good that the ark also hates Nazis. I
But
thought
like,
that was +1 for us.
but what was the explanation behind that? I'm
I
still
think it was
confused.
like the ark is not for like human consumption. Like it's not like a treasure that's for human eyes. So
Mhm.
anyone who did look on it was essentially killed. I thought that head explosion, I don't know how much money they spent on that thing, but that was wild. But so basically like Indy and Marion live because they respect it, and they respect that like they don't need to know everything about like the religious artifact and stuff. And then I don't understand why Indiana Jones was like, why are we locking it away? Like I would lock away the Jumanji board. Like, it's kind of like this a similar thing.
How did he know not to look at it? I'm just
I
confused
think
what.
he had done research. I think the Nazis were Nazis. They thought they were better than everything because they were the Aryan race, and so they're like, we can look into the eyes of God, but no. And then I do really love Karen Allen, who plays Marion. I took creative writing for 4 years in high school. I had to take it to be on the literary magazine staff, but my teacher was terrible. And so she never changed the syllabus like every year. And so every year we watched Glass Menagerie and analyzed the exact same things about Glass Menagerie. And we watched the movie with Karen Allen and John Malkovich. And then junior and senior year, I finally had like free electives because I didn't have to take PE. Senior year, we did a unit on like playwrights and theater that was based on what they were showing at Ford's Theater. So we did Tennessee Williams, and we watched The Glass Menagerie with Karen Allen and John Malkovich. So in high school alone, I watched that movie 5 times
Oh my
in
god.
class. And then I get to College of William and Mary, and we have like call requirements that are like essential college requirements. The call 150 is based on like writing and stuff. And so I decided to do mine in Intro to Theater. And my professor was like, we pick a different playwright to study every semester. This year, we're doing Tennessee Williams. And we watched the Karen Allen and John Malkovich Glass Menagerie. So I watched that every year, sometimes multiple times a year for like 5 years.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Did
so
you
know it
keep up the
well.
tradition? You gotta make up
I
for the
stopped.
last
Yeah,
5 years.
I know. But yeah, those are all my thoughts.
Okay, well, we can move in to remakes. Okay, I don't have much here.
Okay.
But I will say something that I noticed if you've been following along with the pod is that I've been really obsessed with the Vampire Diaries. And me and my roommate have taken a short hiatus. She's in med school. She's studying for like a big standardized exam that she has at the end of July. So there hasn't been much vampire time. But there's a character named Alaric who looks so much like young Harrison Ford in here. It's actually crazy. And I think if we want to get rid of my Harrison Ford bias, we just redo the entire movie shot by shot, but with the actor that plays Alaric instead of Harrison Ford. But also studio execs, if you need to carry on, the franchise, and we've already ousted Shia LaBeouf, I propose like just I guess prequel, or like we could zap Indy with something that like makes him young again.
I think
And
they do
then,
that in Dial of the
oh,
Destiny.
do
I think they
they?
do CGI.
Oh yeah, I did see like him wearing like a flesh mask of him to make himself look younger than I think they used the CGI like technology. But I'm saying don't do that. I'm saying call up the actor who plays Alaric from the Vampire Diaries and see if he's busy. I Googled it too, because I'm not the only one that believes this, but like he looks so similar. I think that this guy should be given a chance. I don't even know the actor's name, but Alaric from the Vampire Diaries is waiting
Write
for
that down.
moment. Write this down. You heard it here first. They're going to call him up. And this is probably a photo of him from like 10 years ago. So I don't know what he looks like now. It would honestly be only de-aging by probably like 20 or 25 years, or if that. But he is amazing. And I have no ill feelings towards him. So if we want to eliminate my bias against Harrison Ford,
they could also get the same guy who played young Han Solo in Solo Star Wars story. I don't think he was best actor, but there was a lot wrong about that movie.
Well, Alaric from the Vampire Diaries is an amazing actor.
Sorry, I didn't mean to complicate your plans. I don't know. Are you like his agent?
I actually am getting paid. I don't know his name, but we don't need to. Mm-hmm. It's like, you know, he's
his
more
work speaks for itself.
Yeah, he's more well known for his actions than his, you know, his public persona. Mm-hmm. So I am on Alaric's books and he is paying me to say this. I'll figure out his name later when I get the check from him. Mm-hmm. Okay, and then like I had mentioned earlier, I think we could just do a bit more leaning into this professorial part of his character. And I would like, I don't know if it's been done, but I kind of would like an entire movie dedicated to him not going on any adventure and just having the adventure of being an educator in America. Because I'm sure you could also lend insight into the trials and tribulations of that, but I want like the main villain to be just like a really shitty kid in his class that like he can't get to like turn in any work. And he's going on like a mystery, like
the biggest treasure is tenure.
No, the biggest treasure is the minds, the young minds that he has changed.
That's not money.
No, but yeah, it's like Indiana Jones in the search for tenure, and he just is also going on a quest to figure out like why this kid can't turn in his fucking paper on time. I want to just see him grading stuff and like coming up with like Indiana Jones and the lesson plan. Like I think if that's going to be a central part of his character, they have to lean into it more.
Yeah, no, I had the same one because like I work as a college professor. So I was like, when is he taking the time off to do this? Does he have a sub? Is he teaching Zoom classes? Is he like, yes. Sorry, I know I'm prisoner, but I teach a Monday, Thursday, 2:30 p.m. So I need to get in. I need to start up breakout rooms. My PowerPoint needs to be queued up. And then like, I like the idea that he's like almost being eaten by snakes and he's getting emails that's like, what's the homework? And he's like, it's on the fucking syllabus.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I just don't understand. Like when you're not teaching, like it's not just like in class hours. When is he grading papers? When is he lesson planning? I don't think it's realistic.
That's actually the most unrealistic aspect of this entire movie. Like let alone speaking directly to God and being blasted and head exploding. It's like, when is he getting his shit done? He's like, you guys can capture me, but I will need to be back in the States Monday from approximately 3 to 6:30 p.m.
And it's like a professor sabbatical is a thing, but you take like a whole designed period for that. You don't just like go in the middle of the semester. Like there's only so much a TA can do. And is he available for office hours in this time? Like what if people are signing up on his Calendly? And I like the idea that like, you know, all the institutions have like obviously like Rate My Professor is like the external thing, but also you have like in-course evaluations and you can put in your own questions. And I just like the idea of him writing like, did it bother you when I went to Egypt?
Were you guys okay that I was gone for like most of the semester? Is that why I'm being rated low?
So I think Indiana Jones is such an interesting name because it's the name of a state and like a pretty typical name. And there is another important fictional character with that same combination. So what I would introduce, do you know what I'm gonna say? Or
I'm just an idea popped into my mind. But
I
go.
would do Hannah Montana
Yeah.
and the Raiders of the Lost Ark. And it's just, she's Miley Stewart by day. By night, she's Hannah Montana, an archaeologist. And I just like the idea of her like getting stuck in this tunnel with snakes, and she just goes, sweet niblets. And then like whenever anything happens, it's just like, ooh, yeah.
Like Lily rides in on a skateboard to save her.
Well,
Oh,
she's Lola at that point.
oh, okay. She's got to keep up the appearance.
That's my idea. And then I also would like the idea that Indiana Jones, he hates snakes, but he actually speaks parseltongue. And he's related to Salazar Slytherin. And so like all the snakes are there, and he's like, let me try something. And he's like, and then an owl comes in and brings him to Hogwarts.
I love it. So he is it because he hates snakes because he can understand what they're saying, and it's
Yeah,
it's
they're
not
like,
actually
fuck
like
you, your hat is stupid.
Yeah, it's actually because they kind of like shit talk him. He's like, I really hate snakes. Like they're like really mean. And you're like, oh, like they can like they bite you, and he's like, they don't bite me, but their words do. Like
Hey
that's why
loser, how's your grading going?
yeah,
You
he's
gonna
like
get in by the deadline?
he's like, I heard your rate my professors is really low. I love it.
Would you like Who's Your Daddy?
Of course.
So Harrison Ford is the son of former radio actress Dorothy Ford and advertising executive and former actor Christopher Ford. And then these other things are just kind of like fun facts about him and Indiana Jones. So he was a Boy Scout, and particularly a Life Scout, which is why Indiana Jones is a Life Scout in The Last Crusade. So that,
What
which
the
is
fuck
like,
is
I
a
think
life scout?
it's like the highest form. My dad and I have been talking about Boy Scouts lately, and I didn't realize that one of the levels is tenderfoot. I think that's the dumbest thing.
I thought like an Eagle Scout was the highest. Is that
So Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts are actually two different paths.
oh, okay. They're two different species.
But Harrison Ford, when he was a counselor in scout camp, but he actually worked in the reptile study section. So that's where he diverges from Indiana Jones. And he didn't take a drama class until the last quarter of his senior year at Ripon College to try to get over his shyness. So some of this grumpy thing is just because he's an introvert and he's trying his best. But he was expelled 4 days before graduation because of plagiarism allegations.
He and John Williams have to have a talk.
No. Brooke, what have you been watching lately?
I have been watching, like I said, a brief hiatus from the Vampire Diaries. Have been really into What We Do in the Shadows. Still continuing on with that. And then I've also recently started back up the 100.
On the CW?
Yeah, it was on Netflix. The 100 I had seen, I think just the first episode about like a year ago. Maybe the second one. And now I'm like, I think maybe 7 episodes deep. I have a bad habit of like Googling like Octavia, the 100, like the character's name and then the 100. And then I click on their fan wiki, obviously. And then I like find out immediately like if they're dead and how they died and who betrayed who. So like I know like very key plot points here. Which I have a bad habit of doing, but I will carry on nonetheless. I just want to like get like a little intel, but then they like give me too much information that I can't erase from my mind. I'm like, shit. Ugh, I can't believe that happens. I rewatched Warm Bodies yesterday because I think it just
My
came back to
God, you are in the like vampire zombie world.
Yeah. Non-vampire zombie, I watched Pride and Prejudice.
Not Pride and Prejudice with
No.
zombies or whatever.
There would have been an opportunity to continue with the theme, but no, the 2005 Pride and Prejudice, Keira Knightley. Love it so much. I watched Prom Night with Brittany Snow, which also just I think came to Netflix. It's a 2008 movie, but that one was good.
Does she die on prom night?
No, speaking of inappropriate student-teacher relationships, is she's like in high school and her one teacher like develops like a crazy obsession with her and thinks that they're supposed to live with each other and be with each other and everything. And so one night, I think in like her freshman year of high school or something, she is being dropped off by her friend and her friend's mom from the movies, and she comes home and her dad she doesn't see because the couch back is like towards her when she walks into the entrance, but like the TV's on, and she's like yelling for her dad. She's like, "Dad, I'm home." And then like it cuts down to like him dead on the couch with like his throat slit open. And then she goes up to the bedroom to like check on her little brother, and she's like trying to shake him awake, and he's dead on the bed. And then she hears like her mom screaming, and her mom like runs into the room, so she hides under the bed, and there's like the teacher, and he is like, "Where is she, where is she?" Because he like wants to get the girl, the main character, Brittany Snow. And the mom's like, "She's not here, like she's at the movies with her friend or whatever." And so then she watches this her teacher like stab her mom to death and right in front of her under the bed. He gets arrested. It cuts forward. That's like how the movie opens. And then it cuts forward to like 3 years later. She's at the end of her senior year. It's her senior prom. She now lives with like her aunt and uncle, and their prom is at this like fancy hotel. Her and her like two best friends and their boyfriends like rent out a room. And then they get the news, the police station like gets like a fax that this guy who was like at a prison, like I think a couple thousand like miles away, he was like at a prison way on the other side of the US or something. He like escaped, and then they're like, there's no way that he's like coming all this way like to see her. And obviously he is, and he's like shaved his like mustache and beard and his head, so he looks a little bit different. And then he kills like everyone. The aunt and uncle stay alive, but it's reverse Star Wars. He kills like the two best friends, he kills the boyfriends, and then he kills Brittany Snow's boyfriend. And then finally he's killed at the end. So she survives, and her aunt and uncle survive, and then everyone else is murdered.
It's always important to make a good impression on family and friends of whoever you're pursuing. So
yeah, the way that he makes an impression is just like, we're gonna make sure she's
like an impression.
Yeah, he makes quite a dent. Literally, figuratively. He's opening up their hearts to him by cutting them open.
Interesting.
That's it for me. What about you?
My college roommate came over, like she talked about how she had never seen the 1994 Little Women. So we watched the 1994 Little Women, and I think I like this one better than the 2019. The 2019 is just kind of like weirdly paced, and I don't think Timothée Chalamet is like my Laurie, you know? But the 1994 has great chemistry, and the soundtrack slaps. But unfortunately, it is like a very Nepo movie. So Winona Ryder, who plays Jo, was born in Winona County, Minnesota, and she was named after her county, which is wild. That's not like a Nepo fact, but like just imagine like popping out a kid. They're like, what's their name? And they're like, where am I? Like imagine, Brooke, you pop out a kid and you're like, Cleveland, Ohio, Rees. But her mother is Cynthia Palmer, an author, video producer, and editor. Her dad is Michael D. Horowitz, who was an author, editor, publisher, and he was also the archivist for psychologist Timothy Leary, like the LSD guy, who was also Winona Ryder's godfather. And her middle name, Laura, comes from Laura Huxley, who was a family friend and wife of Aldous Huxley, who is like a famous English writer. And then Samantha Mathis, who plays older Amy. Her grandmother was Gusty Huber, who was a famous Broadway performer who played Edith Frank in The Diary of Anne Frank, which apparently had controversy because she had like ties to Nazis. And then her mother was Bibi Betch, who was famous for playing Dr. Carol Marcus in the Star Trek II, The Wrath of Khan. Claire Danes, who plays Beth, is married to Hugh Dancy, which isn't like a Nepo fact, but I just thought that was interesting that she's married. I didn't know that. Did you know that? He's the guy you like from Ella Enchanted.
Oh, and Princess Bride.
What?
And Princess Bride.
That's not the guy from Princess Bride.
Oh, okay.
It's like a much older movie.
Well, the main character Wesley in Princess Bride is the fun evil uncle in
Yeah, but that's not the guy you like. You like the prince.
Okay. Maybe my tastes have changed, Marriya. I do like the prince. Okay.
And then Christian Bale, who plays Laurie, his mom was a circus performer and his dad was an entrepreneur and activist. His dad later remarried Gloria Steinem, who became his stepmother. And then Susan Sarandon plays the mother, and her dad was Philip Leslie Tomlin, who was a television producer who worked for WRTV in New York City. I've also been watching The Morning Show, which I've been trying to get into.
On Apple?
Yeah.
Apple?
And there's like a lot of like Me Too kind of dialogue, and no one is like particularly likable. So I'm kind of struggling to get into it. For Nepo wise, the exec guy, Billy Crudup, is married to Naomi Watts, who I didn't realize. And then Belle Powley, she plays like this PA Nepo baby, and she actually is a Nepo baby in real life. So that must have been a stretch. She's the daughter of Mark Powley, who's famous for The Bill on ITV. Jack Davenport, who you might know as the guy Keira Knightley is supposed to marry in Pirates of the Caribbean, that like British soldier guy. He's in this too as Jennifer Aniston's husband. And his dad is Nigel Davenport, who was in A Man for All Seasons, Chariots of Fire, Bram Stoker's Dracula, and more. His mom is Marriya Aitken, who is a British theater director. And the Aitken family is this like very big British socialite family. And I didn't realize that he's married to Michelle Gomez from like Chilling Adventures of Sabrina, The Flight Attendant. And then I've been watching all of Full House because that's on Max and Hulu. And like I've seen like a lot of it, just like random episodes on ABC Family, but I've never watched it all the way through. So that's what I'm doing now. But what I will say is I don't remember how sexual the show is, which makes me wonder like who it was for. Because like we go into like Jesse's first time when he was 14. Yeah.
Oh.
And it's really strange. And then also what I don't remember is that like in season 1, Jesse is supposed to be 24, which like that is like a late 30-year-old man, like 100%. And Danny in the first season is supposed to be 29, which means that he had DJ at 19. The timeline doesn't make sense, but like 3 kids at age 29.
I mean, that's common if you're from a rural area, but San Francisco,
yeah,
they're more progressive. People wait longer to have kids.
And then I went to the Kennedy Center on Friday and I saw the Lion King musical, which was really good. It's not like a movie or TV, but it is art. But on the program, it did say that a Disney production is happening professionally in the world every minute of every day, which is a little terrifying. As our film professor, Kevin Smith, would say, it's Disney's world. We're just living in it. And then I have been watching more of The Crowded Room on Apple TV, which is like, it's getting good. Like we're finally like in the reveal that like Danny understands that he has multiple personality disorder, but like we got that episode 7 out of 10. So like the pacing is just like kind of a little bit off.
All right. Well, where can they find you and where can they find the pod?
They can find me at Marriya Schwarz on all social media and at Remake Hot Take on all social media, including Threads now.
Yeah, how do you like Threads? People that are using it to go from Twitter to Threads, I feel like there's a bit of an adjustment because Twitter people are like funny, but they're cynical. And they're a bit jaded and they react differently to the world with a sense of like bitterness, which I like, which I appreciate. I went back to Twitter immediately because I was like, people on here are too like nice and innocent. I need them to like have some tragedies and be funny about it because the vibes are weird.
I haven't really discovered much about it. I just basically like made the account or whatever and like posted. But I found it strange that like it doesn't look like there's hashtags, which I don't even know like really how you search for things or how you broadcast things from like a marketing perspective. And like also there's no way to switch between accounts. So from like a social media manager perspective, I have to like log out of different accounts and log back in, which is super
Mhm.
annoying.
I think they said that they launched it early because they were like watching this sinking ship that is Twitter, and they were like, get it
Mm.
out there. So maybe there's going to be like a lot of updates and development. But yeah, I think it's interesting to see the people that are going there from Twitter, and then the people that were just on Instagram and like heard about Threads as this new like adjacent app from the same company, and they were like, oh, this is so fun. And like, they're so like nice and sweet. And I hate it. They're like, this is my puppy. It just has like the vibes of like Facebook moms who
Mm.
post like inspirational live, laugh, love kind of content.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, I love it. There are no bots and there are no people like screaming at me. And I was like, that was part of the charm. That was the essence that Twitter was about, though. So I think it's for a very particular group of people.
A lot of people I know on Twitter are like going towards Discord, which I feel like is not my ideal social media. And it's like a very, like, it's just kind of like a big group chat that I don't like to participate in. So,
Yeah. Yeah, a lot of changes happening. I haven't been like this on the forefront of social media app change ever, because like even like TikTok was around for like a couple of years, right? Before like people really started to get into it. So I don't know, we'll see. But they can find me at B Reese Cup on Instagram, which I guess just goes to Threads now. It's the
yeah.
same. Yeah, and I guess on Threads I posted like 1-2 things on there, but I don't know about it. And that's it.
Thank you
Thanks
so
for
much for listening and hope you don't see a snake.
no snakes. I like snakes. I'm
I like
partial to
snakes.
snakes.
Okay, that's good.
Goodbye, everyone.
Bye.